Hello everyone and welcome to our show. Today we discuss about SEO management. I know SEO is huge. It's hard to be successful everywhere, to know everywhere because SEO divides to many different directions. Off-page SEO, on-page SEO. On-page SEO you can divide with content creation, technical optimization, many other things. Off-page SEO it's like PR, link building, many different directions, and of course it's important to handle and manage all processes with various team. I'm so excited to discuss this topic with Ash Nallawalla. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine, thanks, Anatoly. Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, for me it's a big pleasure to learn from experts like you because I know about your extended experience. You wrote a book, you have extended knowledge. Before we start, just tell more about your self experience, background, and why you decided to share with us about SEO management.
So, I, like many other SEOs, am an accidental SEO. I
Mhm.
didn't go to school wanting to be an SEO, or I didn't go to university, or the first 48 years of my life, I was doing other things like accounting, marketing. And then I decided to become an SEO because I was good at it. It was
Mhm.
easy. 22 years ago, it was easy compared to today. And almost anything that you did seemed to work. But that got me going around the year 2000. And I've never looked back since. I thought I was retiring last year. I was
Mhm.
semi retired. I had two or three private clients working a few days a month. And then I got a call to come back full time. So I'm back in the workforce and I'll be 70 at the end of this year. So I want to be the oldest in house SEO on the planet.
Wow, nice. Wow. Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to learn more about that. Okay, can you tell where to start to learn more about SEO? For example, you mentioned that many years ago, almost everything worked. I remember this time when, for example, I had only one strategy to buy more backlinks than my competitors had, and that worked well. We created content for Google without caring about customers. It worked well, but today it's not. SEO is evolving. Google can change all algorithms, and yeah, I decided to learn about white hat SEO. Don't try to manipulate search engines. Why I need to manipulate? It's better to use these rules and to get high results. And but I see today when companies are looking for uh, jack of all trades. They wanna hire someone who can handle the whole process to create content, to optimize, to create link building campaigns. And I'm not sure it's possible today if we are talking about quality job. But it's possible to hire SEO manager who can handle the process, who can manage other people. Can you tell where to start in SEO management?
Most of the SEO managers that I've come across were in large companies. So my background is largely multinational companies, multilingual companies, Fortune 500, Fortune 100, that type of, or equivalent in Australia, because I live in Australia. So I work for some of the biggest companies in Australia. And many of the managers are accidental. Their background is either sales or product, but definitely not SEO. Therefore, the challenge for an SEO manager is to understand what is SEO and whether the person they have hired, whether it's external or an internal staff member, whether that person has the right knowledge. These days, SEO is so diverse that it's really hard to get an all rounder who has done everything. Even I don't claim to have done everything because there are so many niches in SEO. I've not done law firm SEO or even extensive affiliate SEO. I used to have affiliate sites when it was easy, but I was making far more money consulting or working inside a company that I didn't feel a need to keep on working in a specific niche. So today, you may find an SEO who's good at working in large companies. And again, within a large company environment, there are many, many variations. So you can work for a car manufacturer that doesn't sell anything on their website. They're simply a catalog of all their products. The products are sold by someone else, so their experience is quite different from someone who works at a car dealership where they have to sell the cars on their website. So the challenge is finding an SEO who is the right fit for you. And that's really important. And that's partly a reason why I'm writing these 3 books. I've only released one of them, but really there will be 3 books in this series. So I hope I answered
Yeah.
the question.
Yeah, love it, love it. Yeah, guys, you need to read these books. You can see that a lot of valuable insights, and I found that experience plays a huge role in SEO, because if you have no experience, if you just use generic strategies, it doesn't help. But if you have real experience, you can get high results. Can you tell what is the main difference between SEO for small, medium businesses and big corporations that you mentioned, where you have experience?
In a small company, there are fewer people. Therefore, the SEO's job becomes slightly easier. Maybe there's simply one person between them and the CEO, and or maybe there is no one. It's simply a one-to-one connection. And that would mean that if they need certain tools, they might find it easier to get access to them. They might be the only person working on the website, so they don't have to wait for someone else to approve some change that they want to make. Medium-sized businesses become a little more complex. There are more people involved. Therefore, you need soft skills as well, not just your technical skills, but you need people skills so you can sell the concept of what you're trying to achieve, why it's important to the business. But if you get on well with your colleagues and they understand that you're trying to make more money or whatever it is, get more conversions, you'll get that support. On the other hand, in a large company, it can be really difficult. Large companies, such as the ones I worked in, not necessarily my current employer, but um, they operate in silos. And sometimes the website is built by different silos independently. You may not even realize that someone has added 20 pages because it's their responsibility. That's the way the company was structured. And it's just too bad if they didn't ask the SEO for some advice. So it can get challenging in a large company where the SEO might be so many levels down in the food chain that they often are not kept in the loop. Major decisions such as changing the platform, changing the CMS, changing the firewall, there are so many variables that can take place that can get in the way of good SEO practices.
Yeah, I know about that. I remember when, when you wrote the task to change the text or even subheadings, it takes time to wait for a few weeks to get this approval that you can change it. Yeah, it's hard, because if you cooperate with small businesses, the owner can decide, okay, yes, give the access, you can do it yourself, don't wait for anything else. Yeah, in big companies it takes time, because it can be against the internal policy or anything else. So yeah, it's a little bit hard. Can you tell about finding the right keywords? Because I see when companies are chasing high volume keywords, but they are overwhelmed, overpriced, and it's hard to compete with many other websites in the top 10 results. Even Wikipedia is a competitor for any keyword. Can you tell how to find the right keywords, untapped keywords that will provide results faster and can sell a lot more?
It's actually very easy in a large company because there are too many keywords. I work for a car marketplace platform where hundreds of car models and makes are sold. Each of them is a keyword. And I don't have the luxury of choosing multiple keywords per car platform because they're all very similar. And what I also find is that a large company tends to be well known anyway. People will use the brand name as a prefix. If they want to buy a car from my employer, they will put the brand name before the car that they want to buy. Therefore, they're going to get a result from our platform. Just as people will search for a book on Amazon, they'll put the word Amazon before it. If they're searching for a generic car review or a car car information, then it becomes a bit more of a challenge. And that's where you produce a large volume of content. So the keywords basically find themselves. We have, I don't know exactly, but at least 20 full-time in-house journalists. So every day they're writing car reviews, car news, how-to articles. It's happening all the time. I don't even get to tell them, hey, here are 10 good keywords for a Toyota Corolla. I don't need to do that because just from their experience, they know the language the customers are typing. They have access to all the analytics, Search Console data, and plus we feed them regularly all these keywords. So it's much more difficult for a small company to find good keywords, and that's where the SEO needs to vary their input from where they get this knowledge, whether it's simply Keyword Planner, which is my first port of call, but then they can look at all the other tools, Ahrefs and SEMrush and as many other tools as you can think of. It becomes more of a challenge for the smaller companies. I can't hear you.
Yeah, thank you a lot because I'm standing against my window and the sun decided to change my face. That's okay. Okay, can you tell about your book? Because I love reading books. It's my passion to spend time reading books, and I usually read marketing books, or business books, self-improvement, but in most cases, marketing. Can you tell about your book? What kind of value can I get by reading this book, or our audience can learn from your book? Because I think SEO is quickly changing world, evolving, but you need to get. I think even in SEO you can get the foundation. For example, like how to create content for a human, or how to create high quality content. Can you tell more about your book? What kind of value people can get by reading this book?
So my books are aimed not at the SEO operators directly. I would like them to read them, but then give them to their managers, because I decided not to write a book that is all about how to do this, how to do that. There are many books like that, and most books go out of date fairly quickly. So
Yeah.
the best source of information for practitioners is reading everything, which includes articles, going on SEO courses, use every possible means of learning because it's changing. What I've written is at a manager level, so it's all about the what is SEO and why is it important uh, for them to do their job well. So I cover, apart from the essentials, I definitely have to cover that. But then I go into the types of SEO expertise that exist. So there are people who are good at news SEO or enterprise SEO or SaaS SEO and so on. They need to be aware that there are many kinds of SEO around. Then there are internal versus external, agency versus consultant. So they should be aware of that. They need to know about the tools, the major tools that SEOs need to use. They then need to know how to manage keywords. So that's where I introduce things like entities versus keywords. What is semantic SEO? What tools are used to find them? I then go into content in a big way. What are the different types of content? It's not simply words, but you can have video content and audio content and so on. Then how do you get this content? Do you do it in-house? Do you outsource it? I tell them to be aware of artificial intelligence and what's the good and what's the bad about that. I make them aware of plagiarism and people stealing their content and what to do about it. Ratings and reviews, and so on. I give them exposure to links, the types of links, good and bad links. What is negative SEO? Is there such a thing? Does it really hurt you? Should you worry about it? Then I talk about internal links, which are pretty important and easy to do if you put your mind to it. I then talk about managing rankings, why it's important to measure your rankings, but how to do it properly so that you're not just chasing a few money terms. You need to chase rankings at an entity level. Who are your SEO competitors? Like you said earlier, even Wikipedia is your competitor, even though it's not a business competitor. So I mentioned local SEO and what are the special considerations for local. Then managing your online reputation. I mentioned negative SEO again. How do you fix a problem such as a brand problem or a service problem? Getting a Wikipedia entry. Then I talk about managing an in-house SEO team. So how to hire them, how to write their job descriptions, how to interview them, how to train them, sending them on training courses, handling disputes, as in SEO disputes, internal disputes that do take place. Where does the manager fit in and what the manager can do? Understanding the frustrations of SEOs and how the manager can handle these delicate situations, creating a career path for their internal team. Then these days in COVID, remote SEO teams have also begun to appear. And I'm seeing more and more companies are hiring remote SEOs. And there are considerations such as legal considerations. There are job guarantees that are dictated by your local government, conditions of employment. These things do come into effect. So if you need the right SEO, then you should make an effort to hire them, even if they live in some other country. It's a bit of hard work for your HR team, but you need to convince them that the person is really important and they should help you, not just tell you that it's too hard. Then I cover managing agencies and consultants, the types of consultants and agencies, the pricing models, how to write the contract, write the RFP, all those things that only matter if you're hiring an external agency or consultant. Then what are the red flags? How do you decide someone's pitch is questionable? What are the things to be aware of? How do you hand off an agency when the contract expires and you need to hand it over to a new agency? If you did it right to begin with, then there isn't an issue. But if you didn't think about it, it can get difficult at that point, especially if you had to fire the agency. And I've been once in that situation where we discovered that the outgoing agency had very carefully not documented everything in an easy manner. So the new agency basically had to start from scratch. They had very little to go on. I also mention what I call a co-managed SEO service. So sometimes you hire a consultant to be the watchdog. You work directly with an agency, but this consultant is keeping an eye on the relationship and making sure that the agency is doing the right things. And this happens in large companies because the agency has many people, the consultant is only one person. So they can't do everything, but they can keep an eye on the agency and making sure that they're delivering as per the contract. Then I talk about SEO strategy. How do you structure the strategy? How do you, in a large company, you can have an agile environment, and I talk about Scrum and Scrum boards and so on, which only applies to large companies. The pros and cons of structuring this so that the strategy is implemented easily. We also use a concept known as objectives and key results, and that's something I believe Google or Intel started, and many of those large companies use that methodology. It's very similar to KPIs, or key performance indicators. And so there are ways you can write these objectives, and I tell them how to measure key results. So that's a very quick run through my book. And basically, I'm telling managers that these are the things you need to know if you want to bring success to your company and make yourself look good and make the CEO look good, because you're getting more profits and the share price is going up and the CEO is happy. Therefore, he makes sure you're happy and your SEO is also happy.
I want to buy this book. You mentioned a lot of topics that I'm interested a lot. Do you have a link on Amazon where I can buy this book? And guys, you can see it's a great list, of SEO methods. Yeah, I love it, Yeah, of course, I am going to buy. Guys, please do it the same, buy this book. Can you share the link to this book on private chat, and I'll submit to the description in audio podcast as well.
Yeah, I'll drop the
Okay.
link.
I have the next question. Yeah. I'm interested about outsourcing. You mentioned that you can outsource people on different countries, regions, and I agree with that. We don't need to limit to one specific country if we have specialists on many other places, because people can speak English on many places. Can you tell about the right outsourcing? How to find the right people who can create high quality content, and how to test them out? Because the reason why I am asking about that, I had bad experience to hire people who can tell I'm great expert, I know everything, but when they provide the job, it's far away from quality. Can you tell about finding the right people and managing them?
Right. I've seen some bad examples in my own employment in the past, you need someone who knows your country really well. And really well is not simply because they've looked up your country in Wikipedia and they think they know your country, but content also requires using the right language for your location. I don't remember the word for a Volkswagen Beetle, but in the UK they have a special name for it that I'd never heard of. And some writer in the UK wrote this article for my previous employer and used that word, and we didn't know what it meant. So even though they were a native English speaker in the UK, but we're in Australia where we don't use that word. So
Yeah.
sometimes you can't just say, I want a native English speaker. If you are in the United States, you want a native speaker who's American, who has probably lived in your part of the country. If you're a small regional business where you have local slang, local terminology, and have the local context, then you have narrowed down the field. Um, there are some really good all-rounder writers who can do the research. And if they are all-rounders, but can do the research and make note of where you live and get that jargon, that's great. But you can't simply just put out a request and say, I need quality content, and then you just pick the cheapest provider.
Yeah.
So, and that's been my experience. Well, I'll give you a second example. I live in the state of Victoria in Australia. I live in Melbourne. A writer wrote a complete article, and I thought, this doesn't make sense. What are they describing? And they had written about the city of Victoria in British Columbia, Canada. They just picked the word Victoria. They were writing about Canada, and they're submitting it to me in Australia. And I don't know what they were thinking, but we didn't hire that writer. So sometimes these things happen.
Yeah, in my team we use editors, who can check out the content from writers, and even some great writers can don't consider the local language or the way of speaking, but editors can fix it. They can simplify and consider something to Australia, to UK, or US, even Canada. Yeah, they have a little bit different with the US, but yeah, editors can do it, to consider the local intent. I have the question about link building. Can you tell what kind of link building is better to use today? Because as I mentioned in the beginning, that I remember years when we bought more backlinks that competitors had and ranked well. Today we use only white hat link building, but we have many different approaches: skyscraper technique, guest posting. Even guest posting, I'm not sure it's white hat, but if you use correctly with the goal to share value without submitting links, yeah, it's almost white hat. Many other approaches, PR, help of reporters out. From your experience, how to find the right strategy, link building strategy?
Again, I will have to sort of disappoint you by saying that large companies like the ones I work for spend almost no time in link building because they are so big. For example, at least 4 of my previous employers and the current employer, they sponsor sports stadiums. They sponsor sports teams. They have shares that are discussed in the newspapers every day. The sports teams are mentioned every day. Yeah. So we get citations and links every day without even worrying about them. But there are times when we do look for very focused deep links. So at a previous company, which was an insurance company, we had the luxury of having 3 agency people sitting next to me, and I had 2 staff, so I had 5 team members. One of them was tasked with doing nothing but getting us quality links. So they did the approach of writing to individual bloggers or to magazines or anyone who had mentioned the company without a link. So they were doing the traditional method of approaching these people. And because they wrote with the company name, so that is a tip that an SEO can ask for is if you are an external SEO, ask for an account using the domain name of your client. So if your client is Amazon, if you're very lucky, you ask for a name or at least an email address, which might be seo@amazon.com. They may not give it to you in your personal name, but at least you're coming from the domain where you're requesting a link. That's got far more credibility. And I think the success rate was greater than 50%. I don't remember the exact success rate. So people could see that it was really the insurance company that was making the request. And it was a personal conversation. It wasn't written as though it was a spam mass email. And therefore, my advice is to be as personal as you can in your outreach, and you'll have more success.
Yeah, I agree with that. It depends on benchmark. If you have strong benchmark, strong brand recognition, you don't need link building at all. Yeah, because your content can provide the rest, linkable content. I have the question about something that webmasters need to ignore today or shouldn't do. Because, for example, I still see when webmasters create content for Google, not for a customer, when webmasters use black hat techniques, many different things, and it's obsolete today. Can you tell from your experience what is better to avoid and ignore today?
That's really difficult. Um, for me, I worry less about what are known as toxic links. I've been in companies a few years ago where many external SEOs had done some work and it was very questionable work. They had gone and obtained links from unknown locations. And when you looked at your backlink profile using a tool such as Majestic, you would find really questionable low quality links. So the reaction in those days was, oh, we should disallow all of them. So that's what we did. We disallowed hundreds of these links, and it made no difference to anything. And then 2 or 3 years afterwards, we were thinking, well, the advice from many SEOs and from Google is unless you get a manual penalty, don't worry about disavow files. So we said, right, okay, we're just going to delete the disavow file. And we did that. And nothing happened. Absolutely nothing. No change to the rankings.
Yeah.
So I would say don't worry about some of these things that we tend to waste our time. So that's one example that came to my mind when you asked me.
Yeah, love it. I agree with that. Yeah, if you have no manual actions, just ignore all these shitty links that can come to your site. So yeah, I don't worry about them. And okay, can you tell one thing that all webmasters need to do? It's very important, and it's hard to get results without ignoring one SEO tip. Can you tell from your experience what is it?
One thing is to develop a strong relationship with your developers,
Mm-hmm.
and that is such a big thing when I talk about the relationship with the developers, because you can talk to them at so many levels. Once you have a good relationship, and that can happen if you're working in a large company, you can sit and have lunch with them, you can play table tennis with them, uh, and you become like a real person to them. uh, we used to um, at a bank where I worked, we arranged to rotate different team members from other teams to sit physically next to us for a whole week. So for 1 week at a time, we had someone from marketing, someone from IT, someone from user experience, and so on. So by talking to the developers in particular, you can talk to them about accessibility, why it's important. You can talk to them about validation of HTML. I've been in places where all the pages were hand coded. There was no CMS, and I told them how to quickly check that what you wrote is valid HTML and isn't going to break something else. I then also would say to other developers that you may go and make this little change because you need a small element to go on a large page. Your job on the Jira ticket is just to go and make that little element, whether it's a carousel or whatever it is. However, you should really check the whole page. When you're doing testing, you need to do regression testing to make sure that your little bit of JavaScript isn't duplicating something that's already there on the page. Can you be more efficient if you can combine the two, look at the whole page? So that's really my tip, that getting on with your developers will get you a lot of results.
Nice, nice. Yeah, love it. Yeah. And I have two web developers, and I know it's hard to find good web developers because they are busy, and we have a bunch of mediocre web developers who are always available, So, but they can't provide a good job, good results. So, yeah, I agree with that. Uh, okay, Ash, I have the question about learning. Let's imagine you started from scratch without any experience, knowledge, skills. What will you do today to learn more about SEO?
My standard advice to any brand new SEO who joins my team is to make their own website,
Mm-hmm.
a
Yeah.
private website. Ideally, make it an affiliate website so there is an incentive to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And you learn such a lot about um, not just affiliate SEO, but SEO in itself. You might work in a large company where the platform's a multi-million dollar CMS. Obviously, you can't do that privately, so go and get a WordPress site. And I always recommend WordPress because that process teaches them about buying a domain, choosing a domain, buying hosting, and choosing the right kind of hosting,
Yeah.
learning about DNS. Um, all those concepts are useful to them in their day to day job. So I've got a very good live example of a colleague who had come from he came from the call center. That was his background, no SEO or web dev background. He now runs a side business. He's still with the same company as an SEO, but he has a side business building websites for other people. So he's taken to it so well that he's become an expert SEO, as well as developed a side business and is doing SEO and building websites for his private clients. So that's my advice to
Yeah.
a new SEO.
So valuable. Yeah, I agree with that. It's like to read 100 books how to play soccer without playing soccer. Practice makes miracle. You need to practice. If you have a website, you can practice to test many things, because if something works for others, it doesn't mean it works for everyone. You need to find what works for you. Ash, it's a big pleasure to learn from you, to get all your valuable insights. Tell our audience how they can reach out to you, learn more about you, follow you.
So I say at the back of the book that please connect with me on LinkedIn, but only one request: do not try to sell me anything, because I will remove the connection. I want to talk about SEO with you. So please connect on LinkedIn. Follow me on Twitter, which is at Ash Nallawalla. If you go to this website that Anatoly will share with you, accidentalSEOmanager.com, all the linkages are there. And if you start there, or if you Google my name, you will find me, because I'm an SEO, so I'm easily found. But please don't try to sell me anything, and don't ask me to find you customers or set up relationships. I'm nearly 70 years old, but I love talking SEO, and I'm happy to comment on your website, or what tip I can give you, I'll do that. So that's my parting words.
Nice. By the way, I can't promise that, because I get 100 spam messages every single day when someone is trying to sell me that I don't need at all. I don't know these people. Guys, today you need to build relationships, provide value, help others. And yeah, if you are honest, you can get results. I completely agree with that. Please connect and follow Ash, but uh, by sharing your website and learn from him. Yeah, I love all your insights. Thanks again, for your time. A big pleasure to learn from you. And guys, you can find all these links in the description below. Listen us on Apple, Google, Spotify, and see you next time.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.